decade build this trillion-dollar economy. And you can decide. You can stay here in New York in a declining empire, or you can come to Israel, which is part of the rising middle of the world, which is moving south and east. That's what I encourage you to do. I did it.
Well, hello, that's me again. Today is December 5th, 2025. It is Friday. Thank God it is Friday. My congratulations to everybody. And what you see in the beginning is pretty much what I was talking about, especially Mr. Eisner talking over a conference, and I already made the elaboration on this issue when I posted it 2 days ago at my blog, that when we talk about why, for example, Mr. Kushner was in Moscow with Mr. Witkoff during these so-called negotiations. Well, in reality, it wasn't really negotiations. It was the exchange of the opinions on where Russia and the United States can go now. That there was the issue that anybody who has any half brain actually operational, they know that the situation with Europe is done, Europe is over, and it's not a safe haven anymore for capital. And it's not only just Jewish capital, as many people would say, it's just overall capital, and especially globalist bankers' capital. This is financial capital, of which, and by the way, Vladimir Lenin warned about more than 100 years ago when he stated that essentially the imperialism is the highest stage of the development of capitalism, when financial capital actually substitute with itself everything, which including industrial one. And so here we are. And as I state non-stop repeatedly that capital, and you can go to actually my blog and see what I wrote over the years, that capital loves tranquility. Financial capital, obviously, as industrial capital too, and it loves tranquility and stability. And as have been already stated a number of times, not only by me, that capital loves victors, and Russia is a victor. Simple as that. And as you can see yourself, the process can be described only by this wonderful political caricature. This is exactly what is happening. But before we go any further discussing any kinds of the whatever it is, I mean the so-called negotiations or operations in the special military operation, here is the news, which are even kind of no less important than, for example, what Russia and India negotiated or settled with after the rather triumphant visit of Vladimir Putin to India, and we will touch upon this shortly. But here is the news, and this is our big ones. So United States White House essentially produced national security strategy today. As you can see yourself, is the new document which was published. It is dated by November 2025. It came out just a day ago, and this is National Security Strategy of the United States of America, November 2025. And as you can see yourself, there is a seal of the President of the United States. So, it is a very interesting document, and I would say that in many respects it is one of those documents, especially produced by Trump, which are against everything bad for everything good. That means what? All those generalities, but there are a number of things which obviously can attract our interest in that, because it has to be understood and actually elaborated upon that, well, it's not that easy. Whatever is stated there as the, well, let's put it this way, so-called strategy. As my good acquaintance, Alexander Rogers, a famous political commentator in Russia and economist, he stated this, and I quoted him actually in my latest book. He quoted that the United States is good at producing all the business plans. Strategies, not so much. But it is called national security strategy. And let's take a look at some things which really are interesting. And if you go, for example, to this page, and you know what? There is some interesting assessment there, which I agree with it, and so they talk, which we want Europe to remain European, to regain its civilizational self-confidence. Well, it's all great, and the problem, of course, it's not going to happen now. But they talk about the lack of self-confidence is most evident in Europe's relationship with Russia. European allies enjoy a significant hard power advantage over Russia by almost every measure, save nuclear weapons. Well, there you go. That's why those people are illiterate. Trump doesn't have good military advisors, and so when you look at this, only people who live in alternative reality can write this thing. And as I already stated, if you take a look at the actual economic scale of Russia, it is larger than Germany and France combined. Remove the France's France's nuclear deterrent, and it's basically a third world country now. It's getting there. So this is one of those statements which, of course, yeah, you have to scratch your head. But it's not only the fact that EU is done; it's dead. As a result, Russia's war in Ukraine, European relations with Russia are now deeply attenuated. Oh, good lord! Attenuation is the actual effect, especially in the radar technology. When you have the loss of the power in attenuation, the ray actually kind of diminishes in its power. So that is why you have the certain, limits to the ranges of the radar, for example. The same goes for the radio communications. When they are actually depending on the diapason, so to speak, they do not reach that far. And so, yeah, they say that attenuated. They are not attenuated. They are destroyed. And as they say, and many Europeans regard Russia as existential threat. Many Europeans regard Russia as an existential threat for the last 1,000 years. I can certainly understand that people who wrote this piece, obviously Trump probably never read himself what is written here, he just signed it, is the fact that they do not understand the dynamics of the relation between Russia and Europeans. And the fact is, it's not now, it's a deep-seated hatred of Russians, and now it came to a head, and that is why the situation with the European, so to speak, power for the last 500 years is over. It's Europe is basically a dead man walking, and no matter how we play with the phrases, wording, all those semantics, it is what it is. And so, yeah, they will continue to regard Russia as an existential threat, and there is no coming back, period. And so the United States says that it is a core interest of the United States to negotiate an expeditious cessation of hostilities in Ukraine in order to stabilize European economies. Again, you cannot stabilize European economies without Russian energy. Period. This is not 19th century. This is 21st century, and energy is everything. You either have it or you don't. Europe doesn't have it. They may try to restore whatever they try with the all lost essentially their expertise in nuclear power stations. They have some coal left, but that's about it. It's over. And so, but yeah, it's a typical Trump document, of this, willing to, defend everything good against everything bad. And there, he talks about that, this strategy talks about that Ukraine war has had the perverse effect on increasing Europe's, especially Germany's, external dependencies. It was always like that. And yes, United States wants to remove Russia, which they achieved, from the European energy market, and the United States will continue to sell energy to Europe, which is going to be, oh my God, I don't know how many times higher, or large percentages of the increase of the cost, and as the result, European economy is not competitive anymore. Period. Simple as that. That is why Mr. Macron also, just, you know what, goes to China and trying to, convince Chinese that France somehow is still great power. But reality is Europe is done, and it's essentially, as I already stated, dead man walking, and nothing can save it because the whole structure of how it existed in the last roughly 80 years is gone. And so, well, at least with Russia, they say again, wow, brought over the long term, it is more than plausible that within a few decades, at the latest, certain NATO members will become majority non-European. Oh, I can tell you who those members are. We know who they are. It is France, it is obviously United Kingdom, and who knows what's going to happen with Germany, but Germany will basically in suicidal mode, even without the majority of the non-European basically people there. So, our policy for Europe should prioritize, that's what they say, establishing conditions of stability within Europe and strategic stability with Russia. It's all good. Obviously, Russians do not mind. The fact is, they were pushing for strategic stability with the United States. But then again, people who write this type of documents, and I do not want to basically reject it outright and say that, oh, now everything is crap. No, there are some common sense thoughts, but the problem is, that's the main thing. Many people do not understand, and that is why I quoted Alexander Rogers. Why it is business plan and not strategy? Because in order to create strategy, main thing there, as is stated by real strategists of the big scale, it's match resources. How can you reach the, for example, strategic stability with Russia? I don't know. I mean, when you look attentively at and Mr. Eisner got it, the United States is declining, and there's no denying of it, and it cannot be stopped because Trump and his administration, they do not have the whole necessary toolkit to stop anything. And considering the personality of Mr. Trump, his narcissistic and impulsive nature, so to speak, you can see yourself what is going on. And the question is not only that the latest poll, for example, told that Generation Z and those millennials, they hate both political parties, which is the indication of the complete loss of trust in the political system, which has an immense, political and mid to long term ramifications and implications. But it is the fact that, look at Europe. It's not declining just now. It has been declining since 2008. And just to demonstrate to you what is the dynamics within the Europe, even without going for now with the very important Vladimir Putin and Narendra Modi's negotiations, and of course situation on the front, look at what we have. Yeah, it is Spiegel, okay? And this is kind of like, we know what the German press is. It's not much better. Fact is, it's probably worse than even UK tabloids. But look at this. This is what they write, and that tells you everything you need to know about what is going on in the minds of the, Europeans. And that is why Macron is trying to pretend that he, somehow important, and he have to pretend that he is in somehow in the charge of the process, which he is not absolutely. And here is the issue. As you can see yourself, it's stated that they are afraid of their Germany's rearmament. And what can I say? Germany's rearmament upends Europe's power balance. As Berlin again becomes Europe's leading military power, Paris and Warsaw face a massive political shift. And here is, pardon me, it's not Spiegel, it's Politica. But again, there are no normal people who work in the Western media, none. There are also pretty much same dynamics in Russian media, but establishment media of the West are pathetic. I mean, they have the imbeciles who write for all kinds of crap because they are absolutely lost. None of them, from the chief editors to even people who own their butts, and tell them what to write. They have no clue about the strategy. they have no clue about the real economy, they have no clue about warfare and balance of power. However, this is the first time I heard that Germany's rearmament upends Europe's power balance. Yeah, we know French are very worried about this. It was always the case. But the problem is France is the nuclear power, Germany is not. And Germany will not be able to become nuclear military power. And if it tries to, so there is a Russia which actually looks at it and saying, no, 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 you're not allowed to do that. And so, pardon me, and what can I say? It's the fact that no matter what they do, their old European, so to speak, habits, if you wish, of going at their each other throats, let Paris and Berlin sort it out. Albeit there is no way Bundeswehr might become the power which it used to be during the Cold War in 1970s, 1980s, when it was considered the main bulwark, so to speak, the first echelon of defending Germany and trying to stop these gigantic Soviet tank forces getting towards Rhine before the second echelon of the American forces somehow arrives to Europe. They deploy themselves and then somehow they fight Russians. But of course, the whole idea was that they knew they're gonna lose. So the whole idea was to just basically lure Russians into the near Rhine so-called trap and then explode nuclear weapons. That was pretty much it. So, I mean, if France tomorrow and Germany, for example, begin to fight, let them. And so, what can I say? It's Europe's deal and let them die out, whatever they want to do. So, and as the result, that's we have this Macron dude running around like an idiot that he is at Spiegel and say, we must not leave Ukraine and Vladimir alone with these guys. And he's talking about, obviously, thinking that he is such a big guy that he needs to convince Trump and, continue to support Ukraine, whatever is left of it, that do Trump's negotiations listen primarily to Russia? Spiegel has the transcript of a crisis circuit that shows how deep the mistrust is among Europeans, including Chancellor Merz and President Macron. Let them fight. Okay, let them kill each other. You know what? They wanted to kill Russians. I mean, so there you go. And even New York Times, after the whole situation with with Ukraine, they said that, oh my gosh, and talk about Trump. His deadline for a peace deal blown. Trump faces choices on Russia-Ukraine talks. The president wanted Moscow and Kyiv to come to terms by Thanksgiving. Negotiations are now stalled, leaving the White House to decide if an agreement is possible anytime soon. No, it is not possible, and at least not on other terms than the Russian terms, which essentially amounts to the capitulation of not just Ukraine but obviously of Europe. And everybody understands the game. That is why Macron basically making tours and pretending that he somehow can save Europe. No, he is one of the reasons, together with the German political class, together with the British political class, that Europe will find itself in the dustbin of history. And even as national security strategy of the United States speaks about it, it's absolutely true that by the couple decades, as some people have already stated, I thought it was 2050, some people say that it's 2035, that France is not going to exist as the unified state. It will break up with the South probably being Muslim and imposing Sharia. And yeah, basically French will acquiesce to that. I mean, they elected Macron and they elected before that, Hollande and all those nut jobs, globalist nut jobs. Yeah, you see, you pay the price. And as I want to forestall immediately with those people who will be coming out again and saying, Andre, don't, paint everything with a broad brush. We didn't vote for it. You didn't, others did, and that's the whole point. And for example, as I already stated, in the case of France, anybody who tells me that, there were some violations, of course there were some violations during voting, but the problem is he beat Marine Le Pen last time with the landslide. You cannot just throw in so many bulletins, from electorate, so to speak. It was the trend. It was so somebody said, "Oh, what's the point of voting?" Well, you didn't vote. You got what you wanted. So there you go. And this is the last thing which we, hoi polloi, in the West have are elections. But if people do not go there and say that, "Oh yeah, it's nothing gonna change," well, it could. And as strange as it sounds, I will repeat again, Mr. Trump in his first term. Obviously, he lied. He is a showman. He BSs you, and the only interest he has is not of the obviously American workers or American middle class. He has interest of his donors, but at least people saw the alternative. Another matter, then now we know the game is up, everybody knows that he is full of you know what, and so he cannot do anything to save United States. It has to have the new generation, new crop of the politicians, and not like corrupt Capitol Hill. So, but at least people had the option, and they went out and voted. I voted. So in Europe, government, yeah, continue to vote to these nut jobs, green agenda, all those perversions, So yeah, that's the fate of Europe. And yes, it's gonna be very expensive, and people are becoming poor. So what can I say? It is what it is. Do I have sympathy to those people? Yes, I'm not some kind of, a Ukrainian terrorist who is basically having like, Schadenfreude moment when seeing people that actually the poll, one of the latest polls in France says that 55% of families cannot afford to buy presents, Christmas presents to children. Do I feel sorry for them? Yes, I do. I have sympathy. But the point is, I also have to be objective. I have to be above that to understand. It has happened with Russians in 1990. And that was the issue. Russians paid the price, severe price. They learned their lessons. Europeans cannot learn their lessons. They do not have learning organ in their basically psyche of their nations, and they will remain not only hostile, they will continue to hate, have a visceral hate of Russia and Russians. As the result, by this, they seal their fate, and as the most important, the tectonic, basically geopolitical shift of this century is that Russians had it with Europe and they say, go screw yourself. And as I already stated, Russians are not going to be saving Europeans. Let them fight it out. So that's that thing, and then we have to look attentively also what is happening, for example, in UK. And the Russians obviously love now to rub it into this wound of European, well, arrogance. It's not pride. Europeans don't have pride. So, and as you can see yourself, yeah, let me remind you, this Russians love to do it. Look at this. Yeah, remember the Telegraph. Putin's catastrophic war has exposed Russia as a third-rate power. Well, and evidently we go from 2022 to 2025, and the same Telegraph writes that Europe has no realistic alternative plan, nor can it afford to support Ukraine's continued war. Putin is now in the driving seat. What happened, guys? Russia was third-rate power, wasn't it? So, but yeah, this is what Europe is, as schizophrenics, and their media schizophrenic. Here it is, another one. Oh yeah, they love to lie. So, and as I already stated, the state of the military analysis in the West is pathetic. I mean, so majority of the military professionals, they do not even know what they are talking about, including Pentagon. And so, look at this again. You go to July 2025. Oh yeah, after 2000 losses, Russia is now functionally out of armored vehicles. Yeah, whatever they are. And then suddenly, December 3, 2025, Russia has more armored vehicles now than in 2022. These are schizophrenic people who are driven not by, obviously, understanding of the reality. They are driven by the visceral hatred of Russians, and they, because of that, they completely lose their minds and begin to live in the alternative universe where everything is peachy for them. While in reality, this is what goes back to national security strategy by Mr. Trump, is that yeah, Europe has the hard advantage. No, it doesn't. And you cannot explain to people in his administration, because most of them are the humanities degrees, basically from the degree mills. They do not have grasp of it. Be it Mr. Besant or Marco Rubio, or even his military people, his generals who come to him, they have no clue. They are absolutely unprofessional and incompetent people that Russia outproduces both European Union and United States. That means the whole of NATO and even non-NATO members by an enormous margin. They do not understand economics. They do not understand industries. None of them ever worked in the real capacity anywhere in the manufacturing floor. They do not understand how technology works. Well, they know Teslas and iPhones. That's about the extent of their expertise. And even those scientific boards, when you look at those people, I mean, I already spoke about this so many times that, but maybe it's worth repeating that in the end, learn the freaking real life, get real professions, not this garbage of the whiteboard theories, which do not work and never worked. And of course, when you look attentively at how the history is taught in the United States or in Europe, it's a rewriting of it to fit their, emotions. Well, the problem is, of course, history, the same as economics, the same as war, is the main actually litmus test which allows to expose this fraud, which of course now being exposed, including in Ukraine, the basically corruption. And well, West is unprofessional anymore. That's it. And so what can I say? If we go now to their basically the Frontline. Here's the today's tally, as you can see yourself. So it's ticking up. And yeah, as on average, Russians basically wipe out one brigade worth of armed forces of Ukraine, and so 1,400 today. And now, if you take a look at actually what is happening there in terms of those things which many people love, they love explosions and things of this nature. We can go to 2 days back in to our friend Marat Khairulin again in Colonel Popov, and look at this. Yeah, Gulay now is an operational cauldron. Russians are already inside the city, and this happened really fast. And as you can see yourself, this is basically Zaporozhye axis, if you wish, and it's extremely active, very active. And if you take a look attentively at this guy, there is now a bunch of them finally surrendering because they were beaten into the bloody pulp, as you can see yourself, and they really have no chance of surviving it. Here is the captured Ukrainian soldier details horrific Ukrainian forces planning in Russia released video, which was released, and you can look it up actually at the APT on the YouTube, and it's translated, as you can see yourself, in English. And yeah, they say that, well, there is no real, so to speak, coherent, cohesive command and control of the troops, which it is not. There is not. Actually, those guys starting from the company and battalion commanders, they love to sit in the rear. The reason Russian officers die quite often, relatively often, is because obviously you cannot keep those dudes, from company to battalion and even the regimental level from the front line. It's like they just run there and sometimes needlessly die, but who knows. But the point is, this is what is happening there. And this is the part of what I've been talking about for years now. They do not know what real tactical, forget about operational control is. And now when the basically defense is disintegrating and they beginning to surrender, I mean substantial numbers because most of them are killed anyway. So they begin to talk about what we knew all along. It's not good. Period. Simple as that. And they are done, and now they, so to speak, the solid line of defense. Well, it's not a really solid line of defense. I already explained it on a number of occasions that it's the combination of the strong points from the platoon to company level. They try to maintain contact, then the contact is broken, and then the mopping up starts. And as the people from the Military Thought magazine, which is the best professional officer level magazine, magazine in the world, they speak about that. You need to not just merely, slice or dissect the defense. No, you have to squeeze them out. That's what happens. Once you squeeze them out, they begin to run you can see yourself in Pokrovsk. Now Krasnoarmeysk is fully liberated. It's one of those trails. Basically, they tried to run. Not good idea, as you can see yourself. It's all basically burned and annihilated. You can see yourself trenches. There is no way they can sustain this, and it's already showing. As you can see yourself, this is one of the MLRS being basically burned. So, and this is what happens. I mean, nothing could be done about it. So, now, before I go, everybody wants to talk about Russian-India contacts. First, we have to wait and see before this package of the documents becomes available. And we know there is a huge package of the documents and economic military cooperation have been signed there. As you can see yourself, Vladimir Putin was met there in very pleasant, friendly violation of protocol. But Narendra Modi himself, they got into his automobile. So, I mean, it's very friendly relations. Now we have Bloomberg. I want to address this before, because I'm probably going to be making next video about the results of these negotiations. It's Bloomberg. Keep in mind, it's Bloomberg, and Bloomberg usually lies most of the time, but sometimes they get things right. And here what it tells, that, again, I'm not saying that I know it for sure, but that's what Bloomberg says, that India clinches 2 billion Russia submarine deal as Putin visits. And what are they talking about? I want to remind you this historical fact. India has an experience, pardon me, of leasing nuclear-powered submarines from Soviet Union and Russia. The first submarine was Chakra 1. It was the Project 670 guided missile submarine, and actually the navigational command corps of the Indian officers actually have been trained on the base of my Naval Academy in Baku. So, and they had it. Then Russia transferred already for 10 years the state-of-the-art Project 971 submarine. For some reason they called it Akula. In NATO it's not Akula, it's Shuka, which is Pike. And so Akula was actually the official name of the Project 941, which is known in the West as Typhoon. But what could it be if it turns out to be true? Well, I can tell you what it could be. Most likely, India will receive most likely, I'm not saying that it's going to happen. It might not happen at all, so don't quote me on that. But if it goes, and is green lighted, most likely India will get its hands on the first hull of the state-of-the-art Severodvinsk class submarines. The namesake of basically the class. Here's Severodvinsk. It's a carrier. It can carry zircons. I don't think India will get zircons, but India has their own missile, which is the Onyx knockoff. It's a very good missile. It's called Brahmas, and they will be able to load that thing. And this single submarine can change the balance of power within the Indian Ocean. So, and that's what is happening there in between Russia and India, and you can only applaud that. Yeah, this is happening, and we're gonna be talking about this probably next video, I think on Sunday. But what can I say? This is what I wanted to tell you today, guys. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford it, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee too. That will allow me to you to keep me in this business. So what can I say? Have a nice weekend, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.